Tired of the hype about living the dream? It's time for truth. This is the place for tools, power, and real talk so you can create the life you dream and deserve. Your ultimate life. Subscribe, share, create. You have infinite power.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Your Ultimate Life, the podcast committed to helping you create a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy. And I'm stoked today to have a fabulous guest, Wendy Feldman. Wendy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm super excited to be here with you today, Kellen.
You are so welcome, and I'm grateful for who you're being and the work you're doing and how you're creating things in the world. So I'm not going to give an introduction. I'm going to allow people to get to know your beauty, your grace, your passion as we go along. And the first thing I want to ask you is, without being holding anything back or trying to be modest or anything, I want people to know, and I want to know, how is Wendy adding good to the world?
Thank you. Oh gosh, that is kind of a loaded. Here we go. How much time do you have, Kellen?
We've got half an hour.
do we have all day? Because no. I love that. I've been through, I have died, and that's how you and I started talking. I've died 3 times. Come close to death, let's say. I don't want to say I've died because I'm right here today, but I have come close to death 3 times over the period of the last 8 years, or let's say 10 years now. And through all of that, I so realized what was really important in life and what really mattered. And I've had to go through a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, physical, emotional. Through that there was a divorce in the middle of that, and a lot of different things happened. And through every little bit that I went through, I realized it doesn't matter about the small stuff. And you and I have talked about this before, about what other people think. And your WITOT theory comes into play big time, what I think others think. And I really resonate with that, because I used to live my life so worried about, what are people going to think? What if? And that held me back from doing so many things and from being my true authentic self. So I guess to answer your question, what I'm doing to bring good into the world is to let other people know that you can be your true authentic self, and it's okay. And what other people think, it doesn't matter. And the people that love you and the people that support you will always be there. And like attracts like. So I want to share that message, because for so many years of my life, for almost 50 years of my life, I don't think I felt that way. And I was afraid to be my authentic self, and for what I thought people were going to think about my authentic self. And that it did not feel good to live that way. Didn't feel good.
You said the people that love you will always be there. When you choose, or someone chooses to be their authentic self and, be different than they've been being, is it possible that the people that you thought loved you or ought to love you would run screaming for the hills and want nothing to do with you? And if that happens, what do you do?
Absolutely. It's people that we think, because of course there were people in my world that when I got divorced, I thought they were close to me, and they weren't there. And you've talked about this in some of your podcasts, which I'm really loving the series, is that we can blame. I can say, okay, well, I could blame them and say, well, they weren't there for me. But I have to take ownership, right? I take ownership of myself. So how other people respond, that's on them. I can only control what I can control, right? So how people act, it's how we react to that, right? How we react to their actions. We can't control other people, what they think about us, what they're going to say about us. We can't control that. People will do what they're going to do. We can control how we respond and how we let it affect us. And that was a big thing that I learned, is I have the control over that. I can spiral out of control, or I can just move on my own way. And so I guess I say the people that love you will support you. It's the people that you connect with that believe in you, who you are, that love you for your authentic self. Those were the people that I'm referring to. Did I make that?
It makes perfect
Did I
sense.
say that? Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that. You're right. I can't, you can't. We don't have anything to do. Like other people feel whatever they feel, and they feel that, and it makes perfect sense to them because they're wherever they are on their journey of life. And so they then hate you or me or whoever, or avoid, change because that's the lens that they look through. And so then they're out of your life, and then you attract new relationships, people, conditions into your life. I have a question that just popped in my mind as you said that. So, if people that you thought should love you, family, friends, whatever, and then they distance themselves or get scarce or openly become hostile as you choose the path to live on and how you express yourself in the world, is it possible that can hurt? Is it possible in your mind to get to a place where you just love them anyway and let them be where they are after the fact that they hurt you? Like what happens then?
Yeah. Yes. That's a really, really great question. I do believe that. I do believe that. Now, obviously, there's different levels of hurt. Okay. So every situation is going to be different for every human on the planet. And it depends on their own level of what hurt means to them. But I do believe, yes, I do believe that we can learn because we learn in life, we learn to adapt. And that's one of the big things that I work on as being a health and wellness coach, that I work with my clients, is some things we can't change. And people don't really change, they really don't, but we adapt. We learn to adapt. And so when we have, let's say, whether it's family, friends, that maybe have hurt us, or that maybe we've hurt them. I mean, it goes both ways, right? That maybe we've
Yeah,
hurt them
yeah.
and So we have to then adapt. And I hope that other people will adapt as well, that know that, and it becomes, I think, one of the things that bubbles up as I say this to you, it's about judgment and about, people are fear of being judged. There's a lot of judgment going on. People judge all the time. And that's that's a big trigger for me, because I was very judgmental, and I'm so not now. And so I let people do their thing. And if they're going to go do it, have at it. Like, that's fine. That's good, because it's on them. If it, I can either remove myself. I can either say that doesn't work for me anymore. I set those boundaries. It's all about, and I never could do that, Kellen. I never knew how to do that. I'm such a people pleaser. I was so afraid to disappoint people, and I didn't want to say no. And that was not healthy. It was not good. That was not good.
If you get, and I know you're talking to a lot of people right now that are listening, if you were a people pleaser, meaning you got your energy and value and validation from seeing that what you did or said made somebody else happy, and so we're pleasing people. When you stop doing that and begin setting boundaries, then you no longer meet their expectations. So you no longer have that source of personal validation. So there's two questions in here. One is, how do you deal with the reaction of others who you now no longer people please because you set boundaries? And the second is, where do you then get your validation or feeling of worth that you used to get from making people happy? So what do you do with their "how dare you" reaction if that happens? And then where do you go get the truth of your own value in a new way?
That is two great questions. So, I'll tell you I'll tell you my take on it, and I'd love to know your take on it as well too.
Well, this is you. Your take is all there is. I mean, yes, I'll share, but please.
I really feel like, because when you're so conditioned from growing up, from being a little kid, to always looking for approval, to getting people to say yes, to not wanting to say no, to not wanting to disappoint, to people please, you're so conditioned to that, it's just part of you, right? It was part of me. It's like, But so I started writing this, I started this little mantra, and I wrote down this thing on a piece of paper one day, and I decorated it and I colored it, made it look really pretty. And it was 7 years ago that I did this, and it's still sitting. I have it sitting in my bathroom, and I look at it every day. And it's basically a mantra that means that I said, I'm going to stop saying yes to others when it means saying no to myself. And that I will be okay if I say no and it may disappoint someone, quote, and I say disappoint, I will be okay with that. And it will not stop me from doing what I want to do because I'm afraid of disappointing. And I wrote that out in my own little words. And like I said, I kind of colored it and made it just, and it was this it was a very therapeutic exercise I did because it's there every day as a reminder. And so when you ask me now, so that was one big step I took by saying, no, I'm going to, if it means saying no to myself, I'm not going to say yes to others. And so that was tough. So that was number one. But the second part, when you ask the question as where do you get that validation? Give it to myself. I give it to myself. Whether it's outside when I was a huge road cyclist. I think we talked about this, and 2 of my near deaths were on my road bike. So I gave that up, and that was very challenging for me because that was where I got a lot of my own validation because I was very good on the bike, very good cyclist, very fast, successful, and I was fearless. And that was the one place in my world where I could be me. I could be me. And I rode for miles and ever and loved it. And that was taken away from me because of the 2 accidents that I had and, 2 traumatic brain injuries. And that was it. That was it. The doctor said, no more, your head again. And that's it. And my kids and said, Mom, please. And so I did. I was like, no more bikes. So I'm off, but I got a Peloton and I became a spin instructor. And so I kind of flipped that into, how can I use it? And when I get on the Peloton and I give myself the validation, you find it in yourself, Colin. You find it because we all have it. We all have our own special gift. Everyone has it. And it's how to tap into that, which is really challenging. When you can tap into your own gift and realize you have a gift and she has a gift and he has a gift and they have a gift. Everyone has their own gift. Then I'm not threatened by that anymore. I'm not threatened by other people's. I have my own. And if you want to love me for that and you like my gift and you want to hear about my gifts and you want to find your own, great, awesome. Talk to me, work with me, da, da, da. And if not, that's okay too. That's okay too.
So I just absolutely love that. And I want to just agree in specifics for the listeners' benefit here. You listening, you have a gift and you may be hearing it and look at her or look at me or somebody else, and think, oh, I wish I was like them. No, you don't. What you do is you wish you could find your gifts and your own validation in yourself, just like she said, because it's there. And your willingness to explore and to accept and to truly begin to love yourself. I love the fact that that's in the bathroom. One of the things I just did an episode on that'll be out in a while by myself it was like a question, what's on your mirror? And I talked about writing phrases on your mirror, and I use like a dry erase marker, right? And write them there to see, to live into, and to sort of chew on every day that have to do with self-love and validation and accepting those gifts. And so my take is you're exactly right. Every single person has gifts. And to the extent you're willing to accept them, to value them yourself, and then to share them, you do create that validation. And you realize that between the gifts you were given by your creator, like you have them. And our happiest time is when we're in love and service using those things that we were given. So that's fabulous.
Absolutely. And sharing it. And I think when you talk about gifts, one of the things that one of my careers, because after I got divorced 8-9 years ago, I had to recreate myself. And at age 51 years old, it was like 52 years old. I'm 61 now. It was how I never thought I'd be in this position. I'm like, now I've got my 3 amazing children who are in their 20s now. how am I going to do this? I was pretty much a stay-at-home mom, and I had volunteered and did a lot of little things, and I had little projects, but now how am I going to recreate myself? And that was when I needed to really dig deep. And it was not always easy. And I made mistakes along the way. So, there is no perfect. And it's the mistakes, it's how we learn from them, not beat ourselves up. We not beat our, I would beat myself up. Like, why did I do that? Why did you do that? Oh, it was so dumb. And no, because you're trying, just making the effort. Honestly, I feel like making an effort, sometimes that is good enough. Like, you're trying, we're out there. It's better than doing nothing. And I say that again with clients when they're talking about things they want to change. Just make the attempt, because often just that attempt to get over that, break that little, that barrier, get over that little hump, to make that attempt, then you get yourself going. You're like, I can do it. I can do it. It's baby steps, one step at a time. So it's like your goals, we make goals that are too big. It's hard to achieve. Make small steps, little steps, and celebrate the wins, celebrate the accomplishments. Like, hey, I did that. I did that one little thing. You're like, okay, I did it. I feel good. And then you start to, and you build that confidence about it.
I love that. And I would agree with you 100%. In the attempt, you have already won. So you made the attempt, and that's it. I don't care if you had a thought in your mind, I'm going to make this attempt, and suddenly I'll be on top of Mount Everest. And then you find yourself flat on your face at the bottom. Okay, you still made the attempt. And that by itself is a win. The loss would be, and therefore I'm not going to try again. If the next step is, well, I better get ready and figure out what made me trip here down here, and I am eating snow. Let's start over. What else can I do? You're already a winner. Every single
That's right.
person breathing air does that. So
That's
when you
right.
recreated yourself, like, okay, you recreated yourself, and you said, and it's funny, you said, you had all these difficulties, and the divorce was in the middle of them. And there it is, an example of a relationship that maybe you thought you could depend on, crashed and burned for whatever reason. And then you find yourself with another mess to clean up. You have to recreate yourself and figuring out lots of stuff. So what happened? Where did you find the resilience, the creativity, and the power to do that in the midst of, those kinds of struggles?
So how I found that and where I found that was a lot in what I learned from when I had my bike crashes. When I had my first crash, and you've been through these things that are traumatic. I was in the hospital for 7 days, and I was on a morphine drip for 5 days, and da da da. And when you've got to rehab from that, broken bones and severe traumatic brain injury, where you can't be in a room with light or sound or anything for weeks, right? You have to train your body to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I learned that actually when I was cycling with someone one time. We used to cycle this mountain, those 4,000 feet, and we would do it a couple of times a week. And it was tough. I mean, it was hard, that one part. And I remember someone saying, this is when you got to learn you get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I've taken that with me. That has stuck with me. And I'm also a fitness instructor, so I teach bar classes. So I've been teaching for 15 years. I love that. I love helping people. I love teaching, love educating, love having fun. But that's one thing I say to my clients all the time. When you're in that part, it's like, embrace the discomfort. And when I was lying in a hospital bed a few years ago from another fall, not a bike fall, but another mishap, surgical mishap, and had 2 lung surgeries, and they thought I was going to die then. It was painful. I couldn't breathe for 10 days. I could not breathe. I was on a ventilator. It was horrible. But I remember the times I was awake when I was not on the medication, I was waking up. It was like, embrace this discomfort, because it's not going to last forever. I can get through this. It was the same. And I can take that pain, whether you're in a hospital bed or whether you're you're at an event where you don't know anybody, and you walk in and you're like, I don't know anyone here, and it's uncomfortable. Embrace the discomfort, because when you can get comfortable being uncomfortable in any situation, you're on a stage, if you're whatever, you're in a meeting, you're starting to feel uncomfortable, breathe into it. And that's what I had to do. And when I was uncomfortable, with people not being included into parties that we used to go to social events. And I knew people were having events, and you get divorced, all of a sudden, maybe you're not included in things, and it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. And you embrace it, and you adapt, you find other things to get you through. And whether it's lying in a hospital bed, trying to think about things or soothe my mind or soothe my brain, or listening to meditative tapes, whatever it is, you find ways to embrace discomfort. And it's a huge message for me, is that because when you can, and I know you like a cold plunge or I started doing that, Kellen. I don't do the cold plunge. I'm not there yet. I'm like, that is like, you are my hero. I'm like, there is no way. But what I have started doing, maybe you'll appreciate this. At the very end of my shower, every morning, I turn that thing down so it's cold. And I stand there, because I also know it's very good for your skin. It's very good for your body to do the cold. And I embrace the discomfort, and that kicks off my day, because it's like, you can get through this. And it's hard, you get through, but you can get through the discomfort. And that has been huge for me. That's been huge. So I hope that answered your question.
It does. And I want to just underline it, agree with it, and emphasize it. If you, as a listener, whether you are trying to write a book, you're trying to deal with a crappy boss, you're having trouble in your relationship, whether you've got a physical thing, whether you want to lose weight and you've tried 47 times and you can't, whether you're thinking about starting a business, whether you're having trouble with a kid or something, it doesn't matter. Because when something happens to you outside of your control, somebody or something happens, we have two choices. We can be resigned and say, I'm defeated. Or we can say, this hurts. I'm going to figure out what to do with it and do exactly what she said, which is accept Wendy's teaching, embrace it. This is what is. What awesomeness can I create out of this mess? And if the awesomeness is just relax for a minute and get through it, that's enough awesomeness. And maybe the next time is get through it a little bit better, or a little bit faster. And then you can start with the creative thought. What actually can I create out of this mess? So you've had these near-death experiences and life-threatening things. You've had a divorce. You've had to recreate yourself. And you've got comfortable being uncomfortable. And you have then created something out of that perceived mess. So tell us about what you're doing now. What are you creating, and have you created about yourself, with yourself, in terms of how you express yourself, that authenticity, what you teach, what you share? Tell us.
Yeah. So it's I'm embracing discomfort here, because one of the things I am doing is I'm putting myself out there, doing more reels. So, doing the videos and doing those, and adding and giving my little bit, having it's content, right? I'm doing more content creation. And that is uncomfortable for me, because it is not natural. Even though I can go teach a class and have, anywhere from 10 to 23 people in a class, and I've been doing it, and it's like, I can just do it, and I love it. And the minute I can do it in the back of my head, you could put any playlist on, and I'm going to teach a class. So comfortable. When it comes to filming myself, or, even for 90 seconds, and then having to put it out there to the world, because now I'm putting it out there into the universe and putting it up on social media. So it's going out.
The
And
internet is forever, right?
The internet's forever. And it's like, what do we say? I think maybe when I talked to you about this before, I think it's like, it's opening that kimono. I'm saying, I'm leaving myself vulnerable to what people may say. You leave yourself vulnerable to, are they going to laugh at it? Are they going to say that? Maybe they will. Maybe they'll say, oh my God, but that's okay. Because at the same time that's happening, I have other people reaching out to me and saying, I love what you're doing. I love your content. And I go, oh, like, really, and they like, I love it. And they're like, so much that I have someone who I think might want to work with you. And if I get a few of those, great. Because if I can change one person's life, that's what I feel. And I feel that, and I know I've done that in my teaching in my classes, because I know how people feel when they tell me after. And I don't look like, oh, look at me, because that's not it, Kellen. That's not it at all. but I've had to come through a lot. And I know a lot of people have gone through way, way harder things than me and way worse things than me. So I'm not saying I've gone through this and wow, I'm like no, we all have our own struggles. But it's like you said, how do you deal with it? So what I'm doing now is I'm doing more and more to put myself out there to get out of obscurity, to help if one person hears it and it helps them and saves them from really spiraling into a hole, then I've done my job. And then I want it to keep going. So I want to do more of those. I love being on podcasts. So thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I want to do more. I'd love to be able to speak. I am doing workshops. So I do different types of things. And it's little steps, right now, that's where I'm at. And so I'm hoping that each thing it'll snowball.
So I'm going to give you a phrase, and you might use it when you help your clients too. When people talk about that obscurity and wanting to do more and be more, and people have a natural fear. I've owned a recording studio for 40 years, and vocalists always say when they hear themselves sing for the first time, I don't sound like that. And they do. And the reason we don't think we do is because when we hear ourselves, half the sound is through our own bone conduction. And other people hear us through the air. And so when you hear yourself on a recording, that's actually what you sound like. And the rest of it is not. But anyway, here's the message. We have to insert a message in the marketplace. So just save that phrase. I'm inserting a message in the marketplace. Here you are. You're inserting a message in the marketplace that all my podcast listeners and YouTube channel and yours and everybody is going to hear. And when you teach your clients something, you're teaching it for them. And then if it changes their life, even in a small way, their life inserts that message into the marketplace. It's not just about when you're selling, it's who you're being and who I'm being and you're being every single minute. We're inserting a message in the world, but I always say in the marketplace, because when you're thinking about business and growing and coaching and everything else, you really are. Excuse me, you're inserting a message in the marketplace. So that's all. And when you get ready to do a reel or whatever, just say, what message do I want to insert in the marketplace?
Oh, I
what is
love
it?
that. Yeah.
And then insert the message in the marketplace.
I love it. I've got the Kellen going in my brain. All your energy is like, I love it. It's just, you bounce off the screen. And I want to, if I can I go back to one thing you asked a little bit earlier, as you were saying, insert the message. You talked about kind of talking about jealousy or, wanting to be like others or saying, oh, I want to do that. And there was a time when I have to say, when I felt like that, like you want that or you envy or blah, blah, blah. And a few years ago, one of my daughters, I have 3 kids. I have 2 sons and a daughter. And one of my kids and I, we were out on a hike. And one of them asked me, they said, are you jealous of anyone? And I said, no, I'm really not. And it wasn't like I just flat off, I just said, no. I just thought, no, I'm really not. She said, oh, come on, Mom. I said, no, actually, I have to tell you. I said, life has really changed for me. I said, because I look at me now and I know what I have gone through and I know what I came through. And nobody knows like you, unless you've been through it, when you've had to lie in a hospital bed for 2 weeks and lying there when no one's in the room and the pain and the nurse won't come in and you're pushing the button and you're in such pain and you're crying and you don't have anyone there with you. No one knows that fear, that pain. And when you can get through that and realize how strong you need to be to get through that and how resilient to get through that, after all that, I'm like, I know what I'm worth. I know what I've got in me. And I have downsized my life. I have removed not just physical things out of my life, but I've removed certain, there's people that we move out of our lives. And we have to take that out because that has been freeing to me. And if it was someone, let's say, oh yeah, I was envious, or maybe then I don't think that's a healthy relationship. So then maybe I need to remove or whatever that is. And I'm just saying in general terms, I am very happy with who I am right now. I am very secure and I love what I can then offer other people. And I just want, there's so many people in the world that I want to be able to feel that same way, because I know that people have been in my shoes. I know that, we know that. And I would love to be able to help people to realize you yourself, as we said, we all have, every human on this planet is a divine being and has a gift to share. It's
I want you
it's
to
in there.
It is, and I agree with you completely. And when you make a change and you might remove someone from your life, everything is just for now. Like right now in this circumstance with what's going on, I got to do this thing. And they can get pissed off or do whatever they're going to do. That's fine. Or they can talk bad about you. And what other people think of you is none of your business. Our goal is to develop everything that we have and can be, and then insert it in the marketplace, whether it's just for love or for money or for both. I want to give you right now the chance to tell everybody exactly where to find you, where to follow you, where can we see these reels of the messages you're inserting in the marketplace, your website, how to find out what you do, so that they can hear more of you and find out, what's going on.
Yes, absolutely. And on that last little note too, everything is for a short term. Just because things get removed doesn't mean that it can't come back too. And that's the beauty of
100%.
life, is that we all adapt and change. So if it doesn't work at the time, that's fine. And it could be a food item. It could be, you're for your body. You're taking something out because you're not feeling good, but maybe it comes back, and that's okay too. So where you can find me on social media. If you're an Instagram follower, I'm at Wendy Feldman _wellness. And my website is wendyfeldmanwellness.com. And you can find me at really either of those places. I'm on LinkedIn as Wendy Feldman. But yeah, I'm out there. I'm putting myself out there, and I'm on TikTok as well, just starting on TikTok, as I know that younger generation has told me, you got to be out on TikTok. So I'm putting myself on TikTok, Kellen. I'm getting myself out there.
I love it. And I want to emphasize to the listeners, I bring people on here that I think have something, that I know have something, a gift, an energy, a smile, a story. And Wendy has all of those things. And so I would encourage you to take a minute, take 10 minutes, go find some stuff, see what she's done, and see how she's adding good to the world. And then ask yourself, how am I adding good to the world? Wendy, here's your chance to say anything you forgot, or leave us with a final piece of encouragement or message or anything.
I don't think I forgot anything, but what I will say is, again, about the gift, and again about fear, because fear can hold us back. And I have been watching if you haven't watched Kellen's 8-part podcast section set on fear, it's amazing. And Kellen, I haven't finished it, but I do want to say to your listeners and to the world, and I don't know if this is in one of your podcasts, but there's an acronym that I have for fear, and maybe you've already put it in there. And fear means two things. You can face everything and run, or you could face everything and rise. And I have chosen to face everything and rise. And you can too. And as you have, and so can your listeners, and so can the world. And we can all make this a very peaceful place to live and exist.
Wendy, thank you for sharing your energy, your love, your heart, your gifts, and your courage with us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. It's been a total pleasure.
My dear listeners, I want you to take this seriously. Listen to it again. Remember that acronym. Fear is an imaginary thing. It's just some neurochemistry. You can't bring me a cup of fear. So she's right on all counts. I can make you a promise. If you take the things that you have felt in your heart and learned and listened from today, it will help you take steps to move forward to create your ultimate life.
Never hold back, and you'll never ask why. Open your heart, and this time around,
Right here, right now. Your opportunity for massive growth is right in front of you. Every episode gives you practical tips and practices that will change everything. If you want to know more, go to kellenflukigermedia.com. If you want more free tools, go here, yourultimatelife.ca. Subscribe. Share.
Stand with your heart in the sky and your feet